More hits, more memories.
Atlanta's #1 radio stations, Swanky 93.3 and The Heat 94.6 radio stations, has you covered. From our studios to our newsroom at K.L.P. Entertainment. Listen on all major audio platforms like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audacity, Apple Podcast, Stitcher Podcast, Google Podcast, YouTube, and more.
Live from our newsrooms brings back our hit news network, SNN, with many news anchors like Arthur Brooks, Addison Hayden, and Beatrix Gemma.
Brings you stories about the news worldwide. Tune in on Atlanta's #1 stations,
Swanky 93.3 and The Heat 94.6 radio stations.
To get the latest news today, listen on all major audio platforms like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audacity, Apple Podcast, Stitcher Podcast, Google Podcast, YouTube, and more.
I'm Arthur Brooks. Here's your sports news breaking for March 8th. The 8th-ranked Florida softball team returns to KTC's Hole Presley Stadium Wednesday, March 8th, with a midweek contest against UCF at 7 p.m. on SEC Network Plus. The Gators, 14-3, are set to take the field against the Knights, 10-12, under the lights in front of the home crowd after the team went 3-0 this past weekend at UAB. The Orange and Blue outscored the Blazers 23-1 to sweep their first series of the season. Overall on the year, Florida has outscored its opponents 152-40, which includes 7 shutouts and 10 run rule victories. UF's potent offense enters the week as the nation's second-best scoring offense with 8.94 runs per game and ranks inside the top 5 in on-base percentage, .489 to first, slugging percentage, .622 to third, batting average, .378 to fourth, and walks, 88 to fourth. Individually, Skylar Wallace leads the charge for the Gators at the plate as the redshirt junior is on a career-long 11-game hit streak that has helped her to a .515 batting average, 19 RBI, 19 runs scored on 17 hits and 12 walks. The 2022 NFCA second-team All-American is also 10 for 10 on stolen bases this season. In addition, Kendra Falby, .462, Avery Goals, .435, and Charla Eccles, .415, are all batting over .400 on the year. With only 17 games played on the season, Wallace, 1.46 to 7th, and Eccles, 1.41 to 10th, both rank inside the top 10 nationally in RBI per game, while Wallace, 1.46 to 3rd, and Falby, 1.29 to 7th, also rank nationally inside the top 10 in runs per game. In the circle, Lexi Delbury doubled her season total in innings pitched to 12 after a 6-inning complete game shutout in Game 2 of the series with the Blazers, where she only allowed 1 hit in the effort. The Bainbridge, Georgia native holds a 0.75 whip, which is slightly ahead of Elizabeth Hightower's .97 whip. Hightower holds the most innings in the circle for Florida this year with 44 1/3 over 10 appearances and 7 starts. The Monticello, Florida native also boasts a 1.42 ERA over that span. The Knights enter the week after a 1-5 week in California at the Judy Garman Classic, with 4 of their 5 losses being decided by 2 runs or less. On the year, UCF holds a team batting average of .278, 139 for 500, with 5 players batting above .300 on the season. The pitching staff for UCF has a 3.94 ERA with 4 different pitchers receiving at least 2 wins and over 20 innings pitched. Prior to the game, fans will find that the Florida volleyball team will be in attendance signing autographs inside the stadium. The 2022 Southeastern Conference Volleyball Champions will sign autographs from 6 to 7 p.m. Sooners boom their way past UCLA, and other college softball takeaways. A week after dropping their only game of the year, the two-time defending national champion Sooners took down one of their top rivals in devastating fashion, showing that the road to the top of the sport is perhaps harder to keep hold on than getting to it in the first place. OU's dominance, though it probably was the most high-stakes result of the weekend in college softball, certainly wasn't the only major thing that occurred. With 3 weeks of the non-conference season now in the books, the haves and have-nots in the ongoing race to Oklahoma City are beginning to take their places, and there are a few names jumping into the pot that weren't on everyone's radars before the season. Here's a look at 5 major takeaways from the recent week of college softball, with games featuring some of the biggest names and programs of the sport being streamed live on Flow Softball throughout the year. Husson pitcher McKenna Smith always delivers. Husson University pitcher McKenna Smith has delivered throughout her college softball careers, in more ways than one. What can Brown do for you? If you're Husson University pitcher McKenna Smith, the answer to this marketing tagline is surprisingly deep. I work at UPS, Smith told Flow Softball.com. And the work there is super high intensity. A lot of physical activity. I've noticed that's helped me be able to maintain strength and endurance in your performance. Those are very much important when it comes to pitching. In her 4 years working for the Courier brand, where her father, Corey Smith, also works, Smith has worked mornings loading up the ubiquitous, brown delivery trucks one can't help but see anywhere in America, as well as nights filling semi-trucks bound for distribution centers. It's necessary work, and it's demanding work, and that's before accounting for Smith doing so while also taking on her biology studies at Husson and shining as one of college softball's standout pitchers. It's a lot of late nights between that. Other pitchers might want to consider a similar part-time job path if Smith's statistics are indicative of the benefits. In 2022, she pitched 150 innings, went the distance 19 times and allowed just 70 hits, struck out 258 batters, and finished with an ERA of 0.79. Smith led Husson to a NAC championship and an NCAA tournament appearance as the Eagles' ace last year. A fair question coming off such an individually spectacular season, however, is how does one go about improving? For Smith, the answer is basic. It's what you think of when you're teaching young kids: see ball, hit ball. Making sure you have proper handle on the ball before throwing it, she said. Helping Smith go back to the most elementary principles of softball is someone who's helped in her development nearly from the beginning, pitching coach Rick Roberts. Smith said she didn't pick up the sport until 6th grade, but it wasn't long after during a tournament when Roberts, a current Husson assistant, began working with the fledgling pitcher. Smith credited Roberts for not only ingraining the fundamentals of pitching in her as she progressed through the sport, but crafting her philosophical approach, as well. Physically, you can get where you need to be with your speed and your spins and your form. But being able to mentally believe and have confidence in yourself was definitely something that I had to learn, she said. And while Roberts has been by her side throughout the softball journey, Smith has the chance to similarly help guide future generations as a coach to youth in Roberts' own clinics. Add coaching to the busy schedule Smith takes on. But for everything Smith takes on, the Old Town, Maine, native feels no pressure. She thanks her parents for that. He's everything, she said of Corey Smith. Both my parents, Mother Denise Smith, are super encouraging. They never get down on me, they know I'm hard on myself. And working with my dad throughout the years, seeing how excited he gets for my accomplishments, wanting to be there. He loves it. I think he likes it more than me sometimes, she added with a laugh. The days you can tired, he's still there to put a smile on my face. That will do it for our news breaking for March 8th. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel of K.L.P. Entertainment. Reporting live from our newsroom, I'm Arthur Brooks.
broadcasting live from our newsrooms, brings back our hit news network, SNN, with many news anchors like Arthur Brooks, Addison Hayden, and Beatrix Gemma.
Brings you stories about the news worldwide. Tune in on Atlanta's #1 stations,
Swanky 93.3 and the Heat 94.6 radio stations.
To get the latest news today, listen on all major audio platforms like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audacity, Apple Podcast, Stitcher Podcast, Google Podcast, YouTube, and more.
Atlanta's #1 radio stations, Swanky 93.3 and the Heat 94.6 radio stations, has you covered. From our studios to our newsroom at K.L.P. Entertainment. Listen on all major audio platforms like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audacity, Apple Podcast, Stitcher Podcast, Google Podcast, YouTube, and more.